Legends of war can change their way. We imagine our lives will be. The March family are on their way. Meg, Joe, Beth, and Amy.
Being called a thief is the most humiliating thing that could happen to a member of the March family, Joe.
Yes, that's right. It's just ever so mortifying to think that Mrs. King could actually believe that Meg was a thief. We should not accept her feeble apology.
But Meg doesn't seem upset.
That's because the real offender was discovered right away.
But if the true offender hadn't been found, everyone might still be looking at Meg suspiciously.
He's absolutely right. But what action should be taken, Joe?
Hush up, Milky Ann.
First, we should go over to Mrs. King and demand a public apology. Then Meg should quit. That's right, Meg should quit her job. Immediately. Meg! Meg, submit your resignation at once. Oh.
But Meg was nowhere to be found. Joe can say anything when she's upset, so I quaked a bit when she returned to the hallway.
Amy!
What, Joe?
Is Meg downstairs?
Joe! Beth! Please take Milky Ann. I've never seen Joe so upset before. Bye!
Oh? And why must I abandon my job as governess at Mrs. King's home?
You were insulted, Meg. No, not only you, all the Marches were insulted. Can't you see that?
You're exaggerating.
Did she call you a thief or didn't she?
Mrs. King was merely asking me if I'd seen the money she'd put on the table earlier that day, that's all. Then I told her I was very sorry, but no, I hadn't.
Right, she was accusing you. Why can't you see that? I didn't give it a second thought when you first mentioned it, as you didn't seem to think it was very important. But after I went upstairs and carefully thought it over, that's when I got mad. And I simply couldn't bear it.
Just hush a minute. When she first told me about the money, I was a bit offended. I've got to concede that. But now I don't mind at all. When I saw the look on her face the moment she discovered that it was her own son who had taken the money, well, my heart just went out to her.
Does all of this drivel mean you intend to continue teaching her kids?
Yes, I have no plans to leave my position. I'm so very proud that I can be of some small help to my family by working as a governess. Goodness knows we can use the money.
Yes, I understand. But why did you find another job? If my memory serves me correctly, wasn't it my sister Meg who said she didn't like her job?
Not when I started. But Catherine and Thomas and I are getting along much better all the time. And I'm beginning to appreciate the moments we spend together more and more each day.
Well, I guess I can't convince you to quit the job.
No, Joe, not just yet. But thanks for your concern.
Mrs. King's attitude still bothers me. What do you think, Marmee?
Well, Joe, I won't comment about all the particulars, but it would seem to me that Meg's employer is probably not a bit unjust. And what Meg thinks about this matter is really what counts. I believe I can trust her judgment by now.
Do you actually mean to say that Mrs. King didn't insult Meg?
Well, no, dear, not as far as I can tell, and you shouldn't be so quick to judge her either.
I don't care what any of you say. I still think Mrs. King insulted Meg. And when she did, she offended every single member of the March household.
And that's precisely how I feel about it.
Oh, Amy's overheard us.
I don't believe this. Amy, dear, this is none of your concern.
What's that child doing down here? Amy, you go upstairs.
Be careful, little one. I'm ticklish. Does my face really taste that sweet? Hi, Amy. Well, what's Joe so upset about?
Joe called me a child, and then she made me leave the room. I'm the one who's upset.
Oh.
Pooh. The days were getting shorter in Newcourt, but not as short as Joe's temper. I dare say she was as nervous as a witch and cross as a bear that afternoon.
Joe, wait. Joe, please listen. Won't you wait for me? Oh, please. Oh, she has such a temper.
Goodness knows that Meg doesn't like fuss and feathers, so she's learned from experience to leave our sister alone when Joe's in such an irksome state.
Huh?
Giddy up! Come on! Giddy up! Yeah!
Just then, Joe was reminded that others have concerns as well. Poor old Aunt March had been feeling out of sorts for quite a spell, so when her coachman Ben left in such a great hurry, Joe rushed inside, wondering if something was seriously the matter.
Esther, is Auntie March all right?
She's had a seizure, but now it's passed.
Thank heaven. May I see her now, Esther?
Not yet. I think it's best if she's left by herself so she can get a little sleep.
Oh. I guess you're right. Shouldn't she be seen by a doctor immediately?
Your auntie simply refuses to have an exam. But despite her protests, I've put my foot down and I sent Ben to fetch Dr. Christie this time.
Good, because she won't listen to reason.
A stubborn lady.
Our Auntie March was sure a peppery old lady, but there was one person who wasn't the least bit frightened of her.
Dr. Christie, let me take your bag for you. Here.
Now, Esther, if she doesn't behave herself and let me examine her, I'm going right back to town.
Oh, no, she's promised not to cause you any problem.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear.
Esther hated dreadfully to fib like that, but she knew it was the only way she could ever get the doctor and Auntie March together.
It's Esther. And how are you feeling, ma'am?
Don't bother me, Esther.
Oh, Dr. Christie's come to pay you a little visit, ma'am.
I don't know any Christie.
Now.
Good afternoon. So, you're finally going to let me take a look at you, Miss March. I'm glad that you've changed your mind. You've done well to send for me.
Go away.
But, ma'am.
Well, why did you bother sending Ben to fetch me if you feel that way? You are decidedly cross and disagreeable today, Miss March, and oh, never mind. Miss March, I refuse to be treated in such a manner, and I most assuredly will never return to this household again.
I can explain everything, Doctor. Please don't go.
No, Doctor, you can't leave.
Get out of my way.
No, sir, I won't.
Now, don't be foolish. If you'll excuse me,
Ow!
please. Who are you?
Josephine March, sir.
March?
Yes, that's right, sir. My father is Auntie March's nephew.
That would mean that David is your father. No, that can't be right. Ah, right. You must be...
I'm Frederick's daughter.
Well, my goodness, what a grand surprise.
Doctor, I can't breathe.
Pardon me.
What?
Yes, of course. You do remind me of Frederick.
You know my father well, don't you?
Since he was a child. So how's your father doing these days?
I'll be happy to bring you up to date later. But as for now, perhaps I can change Aunt March's mind about submitting to that medical exam. Can I persuade you to wait here, Doctor?
I'm a doctor, and it's my job to treat people who are in need of help. But I've had a hard time with your Aunt March for as long as I've known her. Child, are you certain you can convince her?
Don't know, but I'll try.
How dare you presume you know more about my condition than I do after all this time? Now, if you know what's good for you, you'll kindly leave this old woman alone with her thoughts.
Auntie, you're much more bashful than you let on.
Hush your mouth. I am not.
Yes, you are. Otherwise, Auntie, you'd be willing to admit that you need to see a doctor. Right now.
No, that's not true. I just haven't found a doctor that I can put any trust in, that's all.
You're afraid that you might be sicker than you think, but you still refuse to find out. You don't want to face the truth about your health. And maybe you think if you ignore your problems, they might go away. Well, Auntie Marge, am I right?
Oh, you hush up. Just go away and leave me alone.
I know you don't mean that.
Suit yourself. I'm going to sleep.
Oh. Right.
Oh, hush up. Just go away and leave me alone.
I'm only thinking of you. That's better. Please don't get me wrong, Aunt Marge. As I spend more and more time with you here, chatting, reading to you from books, and even listening to you complain, I've begun to like you 100 times more than the first moment that we met. No, make that at least 1,000 times more. And I want ever so much for you to live a long, long time, because that would give me the opportunity to get to know you even better. So I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you to please see the doctor. I've met Dr. Christie and he seems like a wonderfully kind man. Don't you think so, Auntie? Oh.
I know that Christie is a good man, but he's a quack.
Another good day wasted. Oh, that stubborn old woman.
Oh, me. The mood was ever so somber, and the clock ticked on with the speed of poured molasses that afternoon. But by and by...
Doctor? You can come up and examine her now. She's waiting for you.
Really? That's extraordinary. Our little miracle worker.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, take care, and I'll be back again tomorrow.
Thanks again.
Giddy up!
My dear sister Joe had not only saved the day, but also brought a twinkle back to Aunt March's eyes.
Well, I'm glad that's taken care of now, and I bet it wasn't half as bad as you thought it would be, right?
Angina is angina even if not serious.
Discovering what's wrong and taking care of it is a lot better than just worrying about it. Don't you think so, Aunt March?
I guess.
Hey, we finally agree.
Go on and fetch the newspaper.
Sure, here I am chattering away, and it's past our time to read the news. Let's see now. Oh! Apparently he must have stopped at Gettysburg.
What's that?
The news writer who's been sending his stories up here from Washington, he's written an article from Gettysburg.
Oh, Josephine, dear, didn't you used to live near Gettysburg?
Yes, in York.
A battle was just fought in Gettysburg, wasn't there?
Yes, ma'am. A really awful one. According to this account in today's paper, our side had around 23,000 casualties.
Isn't that terrible?
And it says the Confederate forces have lost around 28,000 men.
Impossible.
The state has built what they call the Soldiers' National Cemetery.
I pray that the day will never come when Frederick would have to be buried there.
I'm certain my father will be coming back alive and well.
Oh, yes, of course he will. Well, now then, where were we before I interrupted you, dear?
Well, the article goes on to say that our President Lincoln attended the cemetery's dedication ceremony. Oh, here, he made a speech.
What did Lincoln have to say?
Let's see here. It says that there was this big commotion in the audience and the president's speech was barely even heard. The reporter says that as soon as he can get a copy of the text, he'll print it.
My word, making a ruckus in front of President Lincoln. I'd like to whip them all, I would. Over my knee.
I think it's time you got some rest, Auntie.
Perhaps so.
I'll be downstairs.
Joe?
Oh, yes?
Would you please do me a little favor?
I'd be glad to, Auntie. What?
Would you please tell your mother to come see me? I'd like to speak with her.
Oh, all right.
There was a Soldiers' Aid Society in Newcourt. Our mother went there a few hours each week and donated her time and effort to the Civil War cause. She said that she was doing her part, and I think it made her feel closer to our father, who was still away and fighting in that war.
Good afternoon.
Oh, Josephine.
Hello there. I'm Miss Josephine March.
And I refuse to believe it. Oh, look. Tom, been a long time.
Arthur, it's good to see you.
You bet.
You're looking great.
When I cut cloth for uniforms like I did today, I can't help but think of your father and wish with all my might I could see him.
I know it's been a long time since we've heard from Father, but we just must assume that no news is good news.
That's right. So tell me, how is Aunt March feeling?
Well, the doctor said it's nothing serious, thank goodness. But I had a bad seizure in the night and again this morning. It's been very difficult.
I think that you shouldn't exert yourself for a while.
I've never exerted myself in my whole life.
Now, I believe that you wanted my help.
That's right. I've been giving something some thought, and I believe I need your permission before I go ahead with it. I've been seriously considering rewriting my will.
Oh.
Oh, now, please don't be upset. I do believe I'd like to leave half of my fortune to your children.
Aunt
Don't
March,
interrupt. The rest will go to my nephew, David. Ah, yes. However bad he may be, that whippersnapper's still part of my husband's family.
It's so kind of you, but I won't bear the thought of you leaving us, not yet.
Oh, Mary, I'm afraid it's just a matter of time. By the way, I probably shouldn't ask this, but,
No, go ahead.
well, it's about one of your 4 daughters. Although I'm quite taken with Josephine, I'd be delighted if you'd permit me to raise any one of them as my own.
Oh, bless you, but that's simply not possible.
As you wish. But it's become so hard to make it through each day. Having a cheerful child around would make my life so much more pleasant, but I'm being selfish.
Oh, goodness me, no, you're not. But no matter what hardships life may bring us, we like to keep our proud little family together. And I'm certain that my husband would agree with everything I've just said.
Of course, I understand.
You meant well, I know.
Don't you fret now.
I'm so glad you had a talk with Auntie and that her spirits have improved. Marmee?
Yes?
Would you mind if we stopped off at Mrs. King's on the way home?
Fine. And won't Meg be surprised?
Oh, pooh, here comes David.
There are times when I feel very sorry for him.
Meg!
Oh, my.
Surprise!
Huh. This just must be my lucky day. It was so distressing when Mrs. King scolded her son and sent him up to bed without lunch. Right after that, I heard Mrs. King crying bitterly. She turned her head away from me so I wouldn't see the tears.
Whoever said patience is a virtue must have been thinking of children.
I'm glad I don't have a wicked little brother around to torture me.
Neither Catherine nor Thomas is wicked, but they are active children, so I do my best to help Mrs. King any way I can.
That's my Meg. Forget what I said about leaving that job. Sounds like they need you.
Joe has ever so much common sense, but sometimes she's a silly goose, and it takes a while for it to show. Yet she's always good for some teasing.
Come in.
You have a letter, and it came from the battlefield.
Is it from Father?
No, it's a mushy love letter.
And how would you know that? Come on, let's have it. Huh? Oh my, this is Anthony's handwriting.
Huh? Well, what does he have to say?
I love you.
Fibber.
Shall I read it aloud?
Oh?
Well, I'm writing this letter from a hotel room in Gettysburg. I find I miss you more and more all the time. The newspaper should be receiving my latest installment soon. But this is such an historic event that I simply couldn't wait to tell you about it, so you will be among the first to know.
Huh?
I finally got a draft of the speech that President Lincoln made that afternoon at the Soldiers' National Cemetery. And I thought you'd like to hear what he said.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
And the last part of his address is ever so moving. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that this new-found government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not be caused to perish from the earth.
The things I most remember about that afternoon are how Joe impressed and touched everyone, and how proud of President Lincoln they were. Me too, even though I didn't really understand all the big words.
Fortunes of war.